I want to take a look at this dance video because I find it interesting. Perhaps you've seen it before and found it interesting as well, and I'd like to discuss why I find it interesting. It's a dance video from the Adyghe show group. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's been viewed 25 million times at this point in time and has 23,000 comments. So apparently it's popular. So these people are the Circassians, and they're indigenous to Northwest Caucasus, which is a region in Eastern Europe. I'm familiar with these people, but I had to go search to discover some facts here that most of the Circassians were exiled from their homeland in the Russo-Circassian War in the 19th century. And as a result of that, most of these people were exiled from their homeland to Turkey and regions in the Middle East. These dancers from their YouTube video appear to be located within the original Circassian region, which is north of Georgia and within Russian control. And I discovered that's properly referred to as the Russian Federation Republic of Kabardino-Balkaria. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So an interesting thing about these people is that these would be the Caucasians. This is where that word originated with these people, which is an interesting misnomer that's still hanging around today. No idea why. From my limited understanding, there were some German anthropologists that stumbled onto these people from the Caucasus and found them to be adorable, I guess, and designated them as a race based on the region of the Caucasus Mountains, and then appropriated that term to mean all white Europeans, which is really bizarre. And immediately, this is a place I'd like to stop to talk about something that I am interested in. For a dance troupe like this, for this dance company, I'm sure they get calls all the time. We'd like you to come perform at our event. And the first questions that the client will be asked is, how long, how big, how much, to go over all these details. And these are really important details for the dance troupe because I got to know how many people they're going to bring, and how long they're going to stay, and how much they're going to get paid. For this particular instance, you can see here the floor design kind of lays out an issue that the dance company is going to have to deal with, the size of the venue. So I'm sure when they talked to the client, they said, how big is the area we're going to be dancing in? And they probably like, I don't know. So they had to contact the venue owner and say, can I take a look at the space? I have a gig there coming up. We need to take a look at it. That width and depth of the dance floor right there is an issue that they have to deal with. So no matter how many people the client says, no matter how big an event the client says he would like to have happen, there's only so many people that can fit on that floor. And that is the maximum that they've brought for this event, which is 8 by 8 by 8. The 8 men and the 8 women can just barely fit on that floor. And it becomes an issue that you'll notice later on. Stop right there. This is another limitation or challenge. It's the very nature of the dance itself that within this dance, the men have an eye line where they can see everything happening around them, whereas the women, it's part of this dance that they are to keep their eyes downcast, so they have to get their line of sight from looking down to the side to the woman next to them to discover where they are in relationship to them on the floor. And stop there. Now we can see the issue of space in real terms. We can see what the issues were that they were dealing with. That the circular design gives them a real good eye line of where they are. They're all checking it out now to see where they are, and they're looking good. I think this woman on the end in the white dress is the female dance captain. I'm not certain of that. But this guy with the jacket on is definitely the men's dance captain, if not the dance captain for the whole troupe. So they're checking out their line, and as you can see, they've instructed everybody to push their chairs back while they're dancing, so that because they have maybe a foot on each side of that circle tops to do the next moves of the dance number. This is the issue that they originally had to deal with, and they figured out how they were going to do it. Stop right there. This guy that I circled is asking the dance captain a question. The dance captain is going to answer, and the answer that he gives is going to be passed all the way down the line on both sides. I'm not certain what it was, but it could have been, remember to pass them on the left. Stop there. This woman on the end is now allowed her one smile for the dance. It might be a nervous smile because she knows what's about to happen. She's the one describing the outside line here. All the women are looking towards her. She's looking towards where she knows the problem is going to end up being, and she has a nervous smile for us for what's about to happen. Yeah, they ran into each other. They knew that was going to happen. They knew from the size of the venue, from the size of the space they had to work with. And also, when you have to include the limitations of what the female dancers are able to do, all they are allowed to do is look at each other to gain perspective of where they are in the dance. So it's really up to the men at this point to try to kind of just break their way through the line there. I mean, no big deal. Probably nobody noticed it. I noticed it just because I'm used to watching dancers. But, you know, it's a limitation of the space they had and of the nature of the dance. Stop right there. I just wanted to point out how beautiful and attractive these women are. Not only do they all have like incredible traditional hourglass shape to their bodies, but they also have this interesting inverted like S curve where their butt sticks out in the back and their chest sticks out in the front. Are the guys attractive too? I don't know, probably. I think it might just be, you know, maybe all these people are good looking and it's a matter of genetics that they're just so awesome. I did want to stop there and think we have to talk about the nature of this dance, particularly from the woman's perspective, that in this dance their eyes are to remain like downcast and unassuming. They're demure, and they gauge their place in the world from their position to each other. You know, their dresses are constricting to tiny steps. They're perched atop high heels. there's a distinct disadvantage for women to navigating the dance floor. The men have no such difficulty, as they are heads up the whole time. They can pound their chests and have fun. And it just seems like in this dance, the world is theirs to conquer, and the women move about as objects of the conquering. Their hands move throughout this dance, pushing like fins of a fish through water, downwards, to glide along. And it seems like the men are in control of that water. The men look directly at the women look towards the ground. The men smile. The women must seem indifferent as they present themselves for the unbridled observation of the men. Is this chivalry? I guess this is what it must look like. For men to grant women the right to proceed unmolested, while they control the environment through which they are allowed to move unmolested. All right, let's go back to the beginning of the dance. This dance, to these people, is an important part of maintaining their heritage. It's important to them. It's a courtship dance. The title of this dance, according to their post, is a Caucasian dance. And the specifics below it, it more exactly refers to the dance as a Circassian Adyghe. The Adyghe being a community of that group. To them, this is a social dance performed at weddings. Now, I've just presented probably 4 different takes on this dance, comprised of preconceptions, biases, and particular interests. I talked about historical context, technical aspects. Those things seem kind of neutral. Then after that, I subtly pretty much took a racist take. I implied their superior genetics. I was actually thinking about mentioning Caucasian again there, but I thought that might be a bit over the top. I also casually objectified women. I offered that this is the ideal version of a beautiful woman. Beauty is subjective. So I was just doing that to be a jerk. Third, and then after that, I kind of slipped into a socially aware modern take, which kind of feels like it's hamstrung and possibly incapable of enjoying the dance altogether. I thought it was kind of funny to segue from objectifying women into acting as if I was being socially aware. When I first watched this, I may have felt a piece of all 3 of these things, and then for purposes of this video, I magnified them to ridiculous size and watched it again through each of those eyes. And I discovered that made the viewing of it significantly less enjoyable. That's not to say that each of the 3 don't have a place in appreciating and enjoying art. Each of the 3 things I mentioned, or 4, however many it was. But when any of those preconceptions were allowed to run the show, I leave having learned less, observed less as a whole, and in expressing them, offered myself as a fool. The truth of the matter is, this is just a dance, and these are just dancers, having fun, enjoying themselves, and saving their cultural heritage. And it's best enjoyed just watching the dance and enjoying it without all those preconceptions.